Find your Tadasana at the back of your mat, hands in Anjali Mudra, and at the very least, anchor down through your feet like you're connected to the center of the earth. Now you might want to set an intention such as, may I benefit and enjoy my practice. Dropping your hands, feet hip distance apart, tucking your chin, and rolling down through your spine. Release your hips, release your head and back. And pressing through the balls of the feet, the knees are bent, restacking, coming to stand. Let's repeat that, tucking your chin. Visualize you're peeling your vertebra away from an imaginary wall behind you, one at a time. Your hips move towards your groins. You allow the tension to flow off your upper body, and then pressing through the feet to come back up to stand. Hands on your hips now and making big circles with your foot and knee. So get right into the hip joint to release the tension from around the glute and around the hip. So move with that in mind. Yes, we're creating a circle in the hip joint, but it is to release tension. So limber them up. Coming to the back of your mat now. Tucking your chin, rolling down through your spine, one vertebra at a time. Hang out at the bottom for a little and release the tension from the top chest, from the body, from the face, from the jaw, like water is flowing off your back and head. Walking your hands out into your Adho Mukha Svanasana, your down dog, and send your sit bones back and up. Press your thighs back. Heels towards the floor if that works for you, and you can bend your knees. Rippling forward into a fuller half plank. Lower your knees if you need to as you rock forward and back. Just keep your tailbone slightly tucked and your navel lifting up, so your belly scooped. Keep breathing. Relax the top chest. Down dog, sending your sit bones back and up. Chest stretches forward. And rippling forward again into your plank. And lowering one hip and then the other from side to side, salsa hips. Like you're lifting over a bar or something like that, and then lowering your hip down towards the floor. Keep pressing the floor away with your hands, upper back in line with the shoulder blades. So it should feel good. No pain in the joints here. You can lower your knees whenever you need to. Down dog again. Is there weight in the outside corners of the feet? Right leg now makes a big circle for the hip joint and then reverses that circle. That feels really good sometimes. Now we bend the knee, so we open the hip and draw circles with the hips and then change direction with that circle. Extend the leg back up towards the sky. Exhale. Tiger curl, center tiger curl. Inhale, thigh to the sky. Exhale, cross body tiger curl. Tuck your chin. Inhale, thigh to the sky. Exhale, outer body tiger curl. Tuck your tailbone under. Step your right foot beside your right thumb, lower the back knee. Now I'm kind of drawing a circle from my hip joint. And then reversing that circle, releasing the tension. It is simply an option to take hold of that back foot and get into the quadriceps. So release the quadricep with whatever shape you're making here. Half split, out. Stick your bum out. Draw that right hip back in line with the left. Dig through the heel here. Keep going, breathe, release the tension in the top chest as you dig through the heel. Then foot under knee again. Lunge. You can keep the knee on the floor as you twist, that's just an option, but keep the torso as close to the knee as possible. The head in line with the torso. Hands back to the floor. Fists is an option. Full or half fist plank. So I'm demoing lowering the knees, but you can lift the belly, tuck the tailbone, come onto toes. If that works for you, can you breathe? Can you notice? Now lowering the knees, again, just an option. You can do it from the toes, hands flat on the floor. Exhale, unfurl. Breathe freely. 1 to 3, chaturangas. Tuck your elbows in. And then inhale, lengthen. Exhale, unfurl, rounding through your spine. Keep your belly lifting. 1 to 3, chaturangas. We're going to repeat that now. Inhale, lengthen. Can you think of this time in your 1 to 3, squeezing your inner thighs together so they don't move, it's isometric, but squeeze them together and notice how that engages your abdominal muscles, protects our shoulders. Now we just have 1, so we inhale, we lengthen. Exhale, unfurl. Draw your shoulders back as the torso comes forward, full or half plank, full or half chaturanga, up dog, inhale. And then lower your chest to the floor, hands under shoulders. Squeeze your heels in and lengthen your kneecaps and thighs away. Keep your knees in line with your buttocks. They might want to splay out. Can you stretch the front of your quadriceps again? Can you tilt your pelvis forward as you lift the top chest? Use your back strength. And maybe we press into the hands. And maybe we lift the knees, but keep suctioning the belly button away from the floor and tilting your pelvis, your hip flexors into the floor. Lower back down, ugly plank. Elbows under shoulders, round through the low back, mid back, upper back. Hold, breathe freely. Squeeze your thighs together, lower back down. Twice more with that. Exhale, rounding through all of your vertebrae to engage your abdominal muscles. We hold, we breathe, we relax the scalp, we relax what we can. And then we lower back into Sphinx on the inhalation. One more time here. Exhale, rounding. Particularly try and round the low back. That's the hardest bit to round. So hip points in towards the body. Lowering back down. Now, the half bow option without holding your feet, or slightly harder, hold your feet. But remember, it's a stretch for the front line of the body. We can lift the knees, we can lift the top chest by pushing the feet away, so lifting the shoulders. Your feet push into your hands. Do what feels good. Does it feel like a stretch? Try to draw your head back. You'll see me trying to do that. It's quite a workout for your neck muscles. And lower down. Breathe. Think of this as energy flow. And then bring your cheek to the other side. And again, we're allowing that fresh energy to move up in the resting periods. We've done this work to get the energy moving, and we're almost receiving it when we rest. Now coming into a full or half up dog, you can lift your kneecaps, optional. Reach through your toes. Then back to neutral with the head, lift one leg. And then the other, it's a little bit of a hold. Tuck your toes, belly lifts you. Back into down dog, your belly, lifts you. Is there an arch in your foot, in your down dog? Is your belly stretching forward, your chest stretching forward, your back long? Are you breathing? All these things. Down dog is really a powerhouse of a pose when we get that length. Walk your hands back to your feet and unfurl to stand. So we tuck the tailbone as we unfurl. Now knee in towards the chest. Make it as effortless as possible to lift the leg. So with that rounding of the back, think of the leg lifts and you press the floor away and try and allow the leg to be as light as possible. As you push kick, can you find that similar action? How can you make your leg as round as possible, as if it's similar to bringing the knee in towards the chest before you extend the leg? Exhale as you kick and drop the opposite hand down. Sorry, it's the same hand as the leg that's kicking. Hands behind your head, baby back bend, lift the top chest, support your head and neck, stretch your sternum up towards the ceiling. As you draw your navel in, release one hand and maybe then the other, but find the stretch for the front line of the body and the engagement for the back line of the body. A back bend should strengthen your back and stretch the front of your body. Coming back to neutral, then rolling back down one vertebra at a time through your spine. It's opening the back of the spine. Salamba Uttanasana, I'm demoing, I have my elbows on my thighs, and that's an option, or just drop them to the floor. Your knees can be bent. The idea here is a release. Our back should feel really good. Bend your knees if you need to, otherwise, elbows release down. Can you let go on the exhalation? Coming back to that theme of energy flow, allowing the blood to go to the head, the face, the brain. As we slowly release, the hamstrings like to be cajoled. Now walking your hands back into your down dog. The back of the thighs widen here in your down dog. They roll outwards. Rippling forward. Feet hip distance, as wide as your mat. And then shoulder taps. So tap one shoulder and then the other. We do about 10 of these. Before coming into a forearm plank. I'm doing an ugly plank forearm. It's not that it's ugly, it's just not flat, right? It's rounded. So really, we know we're engaging here when we do this type of plank. I always do them really. To try and get my upper back in line with the shoulder blades. Then press back up through your second favorite hand and find your downward facing dog. Left leg makes that big hip circle, one direction, and then change that direction. Lift the leg, bend the knee, open the hip, and draw a circle with your knee in one direction, and then change that direction. Limbering up the hip, thigh to the sky. Exhale, center body tiger curl, rounding. Inhale, thigh to the sky. Exhale, cross body tiger curl. How high can you get the knee up the tricep? Inhale, thigh to the sky. exhale, outer body tiger curl. Again, get that knee high, as high as you can. Step that foot now beside the left thumb and a big circle for your hip joint in one direction, your pelvis, and then in the other direction to release tension. Continue with that if you want, or hand underneath armpit and take hold of the foot. Left hand, right foot. Press your pelvis forward like the bow pose from the floor to release your hip flexors. Release that foot and your half split. If your buttocks was against a wall or there was something directly behind your buttocks, both sides of your glutes should be on the wall, not just your right, your kneeling glute. So draw that left buttocks back like a down dog. It's like down dog. Can you lift up through your inner thighs? Back to your lunge and our lunge twist. Draw your shoulder blades together as you reach through the hands. Lower your hands to the floor. Fist plank option, you choose. Breathe. The energy, the prana, is carried on the breath or with the breath as well as the movement. Now, fists underneath where your heart are, that's an option, or just diamond shaped hands if you can't do it on your fist. And 3 chaturangas or push-ups in this variation. And then inhale, we lengthen again, and exhale, we unfurl. I'm going to demo in a moment the next round, micro variations. So if it's just way too hard, here I go, knees under buttocks, and you simply do that variation, and it's still challenging because your elbows bend backwards. Last one, and then inhale, hands back flat on the floor, chaturanga, full or half plank. Full or half chaturanga, keep elbows in, full or half up dog. Find the back bend, the length for the front line. And then back to neutral or more neutral as you lift your leg. Lift and hold, and then lift and hold the other leg. Belly squeezes, lifting it back into your down dog. Sometimes it helps to think of oiling a cog in those repeated sequences so that we're still being mindful with the body. Lower your knees to the floor now. Hands on your hips. Lean back and forward. So this is like a Pilates hinge. Lean back and then forward. And now this will really work your thighs, but the trick is to keep the hip points in and the back lovely and long as you lean back. Your belly is engaged. It's like your tailbone is lengthening towards your knees. Hold to here if you can. Really engaging those thighs. Then come back up. Stick your bum out, send it down towards the heels, and then hinge. So we're not coming back to neutral. We're still leaning slightly back. This is a real activation of your thighs. So keep your hips slightly behind your knees as you stick your bum out and then come up again, if you can. So we're done with those. Now, same thing, just Ustrasana or a bow variation. Maybe you drop your buttocks back and then touch your heels. So we do that action and then we send the hips forward. So I'm doing the half variation. You drop back and then hips forward. Nice way for the spine to get into that. Now I'm doing both hands. My buttocks drops back and then I bring my hips forward. This is an option. Is your sternum lifting up towards the ceiling? Come all the way out, however is with control for you. Squeeze your belly. And then Balasana, rest. Allow that energy to go back up through your cells. So release the tension to receive the poses almost. Press back into your down dog. Pressing through your hands, fingers nice and wide, so space between your fingers like you're stretching them. Then walk your hands back to your feet. On fro. Hands behind your head. You can do that controlled back bend variation, supporting the head and neck, releasing one arm and then the other. Just bring your belly and hip points in. We want to train ourselves to do that. You can walk your hands down your thighs is option 3, or keep your hands on your buttocks, flatten your buttocks down if you're doing that. Belly squeezes. Fill your vertebra as you come back up. Like you're bringing the front of the body into the back of the body. Take a moment. You might be a little dizzy. And then hip circles. Again, mindfully just limber up your hips, making a circle. Now, it's like we're opening a door here with these kicks. Because it's so early in the practice for these type of kicks, still think of it as a warm-up. I like to pick something in the room and think of an arc. I'm trying to get my leg up over the top of that. Even though I'm hopping a little bit, I think as much as possible, keep the supporting leg grounded. And then other side. Maybe you pick a spot in the room. You think of getting your leg up and over that. You see the difference that makes in the height of the leg, but also the circle in the hip once you pick something. Keep going, breathing. We're done. Shake out the tension. So shaking the tree. Nothing falls off the piano. Good work. And then I'm just moving my mat around. It's kind of slips and slides on that carpet. And then rolling back down through the spine, one vertebra at a time. I'm bringing my feet together for Salamba Uttanasana, all variations, whatever suits you. Allow the elbows to be like a weight, lengthening the spine, releasing the legs. Release the glutes so your sit bones can lift up. Give it time. Receive the fresh blood flow to your face by relaxing your face, your scalp, skin around your face even. And hands to the floor. Walk them back out. And pressing your thighs back. Lowering my knees to the floor here. Hands to the floor, rounding. So we round through the spine. It's almost like a cat. And then press through the hands to lift the sit bones up. This is like a pike press. So it's a good preparation for handstand and for press handstand. We won't be doing press handstand today. We will be doing a forearm. We have an option of a forearm balance, but this is great preparation for the strength and the shape we need in the body for pressing up into things. Keep going. I know it's pretty challenging. It looks easy, but lift your sit bones as high up as you can. You can even straighten your legs if you want, if you're finding it easy, but think of almost rounding through your back. It's a little like ugly plank in a way, and dropping the head down. It's challenging for the wrists, really. So then take a little release for your wrists And maybe tuck your toes under while you're doing that. So we're allowing the energy to flow back into our wrists and hands. We're not sacrificing any part of the body to make shapes. Think of it again, energy flow, or practice. I definitely felt the energy flow after this practice. I could feel it in my hands, in my arms. So just hanging out in our down dog. Before we draw that big circle with our right leg. 1. And change direction. We're just doing a hip circle this time. And then thigh to the sky. Exhale, tiger curl. Bring your head right in if you can. Inhale, thigh to the sky. Exhale, cross body tiger curl. Inhale, thigh to the sky. Exhale, outer body tiger curl. Step the foot beside the right thumb. High lunge. Kali mudra with your hands. Think of stretching the front line of the body here. Find a point to look ahead and slightly up at. That is uplifting. We're releasing the back hip flexor. Now you might want to bring your hands onto your hips here as you bend the front knee. Lean forward, back to neutral, press through the front foot, come up towards standing. Repeat that. Inhale, we lean forward, back to neutral, and then press through the front foot. Now we're activating the front glute, so play around with where you have to press through the foot to make sure that the muscle is doing the heavy lifting. I would recommend when you press back up to keep your knee slightly bent. Press through the ball of the foot. Now coming into our lunge kicks, we bend the back knee and then we kick. We bend and then we kick. Can we remember the similar action to when we lifted the knee using our deep core muscles? So how can we make the leg feel as light as possible while lifting it? We've got 10 of these, so we're about halfway through. Keep breathing, keep pressing down through the heel and the ball of the foot. The heel usually activates the glute, so get that squeeze. Then hands to the floor. You can pause and add a warrior 1 here if you want. I do it on the other side, or go straight into your lizard pose. Squeeze your knee in towards your shoulder, so try not to allow the knee to splay out. Your elbows might not be on the floor, that's fine. Half split again. We pause. You can stay in your half split through this entire sequence. The split preparation next, if you prefer. You can hinge forward. Or you can slide your leg further out and stick your bum out, lean to one side, and relax your back hip flexor. It's usually the back hip flexor that is the tightest. So send your sit bones back. It's like you're lifting up through your inner thighs and out through your sit bones. Allow yourself to breathe here. When you hold tension, it's like it's preventing energy flow, right? So as much as possible, keep your wrists and upper body in a healthy state while you work your legs. So coming back to our fist plank and holding. Try and get your heels above your toes if you can, then lower. And diamond push-ups, 3 of them, 3 times 3. So we unfurl and 1 to 3. You could absolutely, as you continue with your 2 more, you could absolutely do these from the toes. Just get the form right. You could do as many as you wanted. You don't need to do the unfurl, but you can use the timing of this video. But try and get it's an opportunity to work on form, basically, to really get your abdominal muscles firing up, your muscles. Unfurl, fuller half plank, fuller half chaturanga, up dog, stretching through your thighs, your shins, your feet, your toes. Back to more neutral and lift one leg, pause, and then lift the other leg and pause. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Keep breathing, keep noticing. So we do have little opportunities to rest in this sequence, which is nice to balance out our practice. Now we bend the knees and we unfurl, we press through the hands, trying to get a rounding. This is handstand press. Press, practice again. So we're rounding through the upper back as we press through the toes to bring the back over the hands. Now we'll do little Shakti kicks, so you can press into the hands and bring the heels in towards the buttocks. You might be able to float there, well, not really float, but, keep the heels over the buttocks. But we're trying to press through the hands and round through the spine. We'll do this outside one of the days, and it is much easier to be brave when you're practicing outside. Brave but not foolish. Now release your wrists, because again, we're looking after every part of the body, not circus or gymnastics, right? I know those can be fun, but we're looking after the body, the energetic body, as well as the physical here. Release the other wrist. And then left leg, big circle for the hip, and change direction. Thigh to the sky. Exhale, center tiger curl, knee to nose. Inhale, thigh to the sky. Exhale, cross body tiger curl. Inhale, thigh back up to the sky. And exhale, outer body tiger curl. Step that foot beside the left thumb and come up into your high lunge. Bring your toes under your heel. Keep pressing that back thigh up towards the ceiling and stretch the front line of the body. So sternum lifts up, hip points draw in. Enjoy that. It's such a gorgeous stretch when you get rid of the making of shapes and you think about it more muscularly or energetically. Hands to the heart, and now we bend, we lean forward, come back to neutral, and then press through the ball of the foot to come back to stand. Repeat that. Now, I don't fully straighten that front leg, so I'm really engaging my thigh by keeping the knee slightly bent even at the top, and by pressing through the ball of the foot. I actually really enjoy that. And as we hinge forward, we're activating the glute. It's a little bit more challenging, so we press through the heel. We really think about what we're doing here. Step the back foot in, bend the knee. Inhale and exhale. We kick. Think your way through it. So, how can I bring my hip points in a little bit before I kick and lift the knee so that my stronger muscles can do the work of lifting the leg? It's quite tiring, this one, right? Might feel your thighs burning a little bit, but it does make them good and strong. Now I do a warrior one on this side. I was thinking about it going, oh, did I do that on the other side? But here it is on the left side. You can pause the video after this and do your right side if you think I'll be walking out unevenly if I don't do the other side. It's just an added little benefit. Now we bring the hands to the floor and we come back into our lizard pose variation. Bring your hands inside the foot and you squeeze your knee back in. You can bring your elbows to the floor. This is a gorgeous hip stretch, kind of. It definitely, it just feels so good for the hips as well as releasing the back quadricep. Now your half split. Dig through the heels, stick your bum out. Energy up through the inner thigh and out through the sit bones. I'll show you later using a block to do that same action with our legs together. We're forward folding. You can bow in towards yourself. It's really nice. Dropping the head in yoga is seen to be calming. Now stay with that, or your full split, limbering up or warming up. Sticking the bum out, sending the sit bones back. And often, if you don't try splits directly after, the next time you come back, you'll be more limbered up than you would be if you tried it directly after. It's that coming in and out of things that helps the body gradually warm up. I'm going to fix my mat here. And then a fist plank. I'm lifting one leg, pulsing it 10 times. And then the other, you do what feels good for you. I've got carpet underneath me here, so it's a little extra padding. Now, wide push-up variation, hands off the mat. So we're getting into the chest a little bit more. 1 to 3, and 3 rounds of those. Make sure each of your vertebrae round when it comes to the rounding bit. So from the tailbone, tucking the energy ripples up through the spine. Really nice to get that movement. Then hands back under shoulders, full or half plank, full or half chaturanga, full or half up dog. Stretch, lengthen. Back to neutral, lift one leg, hold, and then the other. Tuck your toes, hip points in, back to down dog. So each time you lift back to down dog, use your abdominal muscles to lift you. They're very strong. Now I'm using a couch here. As I do my hinge again, you don't need to use anything, but it's just to give me a little guide and a little bit of confidence. So I'm sticking my bum out, I'm bringing my hips behind my knees like we did earlier. And you can then support your head and neck and reach one arm out and then the other. Keep the belly in. You can continue with that, or you can extend your arm back as if you're reaching towards something. It can help to have a guide. And I'm doing it a few times here, just limbering up, just protect your low back. And we do that by drawing the belly in, hip points in, and keeping the spaciousness in the vertebrae in the low back. They're not all, crunching up. Back to our mat. Lengthen out your spine in your down dog. Take a few moments. Bring spaciousness into your knee joints before walking your hands back to your feet. My feet are together. That's the option. And then tucking the tailbone, stacking your vertebrae one at a time. You'll feel it more up either side of the spine with the feet together. Now I'm doing that back bend, standing back bend, but again with the couch as a guide. So you can simply support your head, lift the top chest, option 1. Option 2, hands on the buttocks. Option 3, hands down the thighs. Option 4, reach back behind you. Make sure it's all controlled. So when we offer our hearts in yoga a back bend, we're not throwing it against a wall. It is controlled, a controlled offering and opening of the heart. The heart is like a muscle. It opens, it closes. It's not a foolish action. It's brave, but not foolish. And then some hip circles. And then we're doing more standing hip circles, but we're closing the knee inwards this time. Again, move in a way that limbers up your hips because we're going to be doing closed door kicks. That's an option in a few moments. So here we go with those kicks. Do what you can. Visualize something. So at the beginning, I probably don't. And then once I find, I probably have picked the mirror now to imagine that I'm lifting my leg up and over the top of the mirror. And it really does help. As well as that, trying to make my leg feel light by the way I'm lifting it. And then the other side, pick a point for yourself. And try and lift that leg over that in a big arc. The heel pulls down towards the floor. Just a few more. It can be quite challenging, so don't worry if you're really tired. Don't give up. Maybe a rest. Do one, rest, do one. Just don't give up. I remember it is very, very tiring at the beginning, those. And I notice my heart rate often goes into zone 2 when I'm doing those type of things. So have a little shake out of the tree. Little limbering up, little lifting of the energy before optional belt for Padangusthasana. So you can use your hand on the big toe, as I'm demoing here. It's perfect. I do like a belt to try and get my deep core muscles firing up just by pulling the leg back into the socket. So have a play around with extending the leg first. Lengthen as much as you can up through the spine and try not to force anything with the legs. Keep going, other side. Have a play around with bending and extending. Often the more physical practice we do, the tighter the hamstrings get, the more we have to stretch and release. It's just the way it is because obviously our hamstrings are for strength-based activities as well, so sometimes they get stiff from working. Now we extend the leg up and out, bent or straight, and out to the side. At the beginning, keep the leg bent, and that's all good, and just lengthen the torso. I know sometimes it can be frustrating if you can't get something, but that's actually very much part of our yoga practice. So other side now. Extend out in front and out to the side. So how are we meeting a challenge? Do we give up? Do we get angry with ourselves or others? Just observe what comes up for you. I do give options, but I don't intend to carry anyone. It's not the point of practice. So from here, doing our bird of paradise. And as you notice, we do a bind. Now you could use a belt here. You could reuse your belt to extend the legs again. You could release your hamstring from lying on the back. See here, I'm demoing keeping the knee bent as a first option and lengthening the torso. That's really important. Torso length, most yoga poses is, the first port of call, and then extending that leg out to the side. And releasing. Release your shoulders. I do have long arms, so supposedly binds are easier. But you can use a belt. So either take hold, clasp your arms under your leg, And there is a little bit of shuffling around. So once you come up to stand, I know that's an aspect of the balance, to find space for your torso so it can lengthen up. And then unfurl that leg out to the side. Hold. And then lower. So I'm just doing a little bit of Qigong here to release the back. It's a little bit like an energy wave moving up through the spine. But do whatever feels good for releasing your back, your shoulders, if anything was kind of crunched up. So we can release the tension from what we just did. Lift the top chest. You can bring energy into your fingers. Now, yoga block, if you're trying a forearm plank for the first time, you mightn't be doing a forearm plank. Now, I'm demoing here. Don't bring your elbows out. Keep them in line with the hands if you can. Usually it's a stronger shape. I know some people can do it with the elbows out. I know all our bodies are a little bit different, but you can simply lift up into a forearm plank by the wall and then work on your balance, or you can play around with kicking up into it. You can use what you know from our press pikes, our pike presses, and our Shakti kick practice, the rounding, especially the slowed down variation. So I'm just taking 2 legs away from the wall, then lower down. Make sure you kick up with the opposite foot the next time. Now, you might not be doing this. You might be lifting like from a dolphin pose. You might be practicing dolphin pose, which I do in a lot of these sequences, and then just lifting one leg and the other. And that really is preparation. You would lift the buttocks as high, close to the wall as you can in dolphin pose. And that's really just how you come into this pose. It's having that good dolphin pose with the leg extended up. And then you just press into the hands and you lift. So again, you can play around with bringing your feet away from the floor. Maybe you're doing this in the center of the room. Who knows? As long as you just take responsibility for whatever you're doing, but you can use the timing. Now I'm bringing my toes down the wall for a back bend now, bringing the knees closer to the wall and looking forward. So upper body back bend, coming out of it. Take a child's pose. Stay in your child's pose. I'm going to come back to the mat to do a child's pose now, but you can stay where you are. And again, allow that energy to release. So even if you were doing dolphin, it was an inversion, fresh blood to the brain. Cat-cow the spine now. So restoring anything dubious that was going on with the shapes we were making. I mean, hopefully we were all very mindful, but there is this margin of error when we're trying things, right? So I'm going to show you with a block this lifting up through the inner thighs in a moment, but the reason I took hold of the block there was in our splits practice, you might want to sit on a block. A block is very similar to a hard book. So, if you don't have a yoga block, use a stack of hard books. It doesn't need to be fancy. I actually only really got a fancy yoga mat, not that one I'm using, but, a lot later down the track. Your props don't need to be fancy or anything like that. So release the tension from your hammies and your back thigh. My leg is slightly further in. I'm actually not doing this on purpose. I'm just not aware that I have to bring the back leg further out. You could lean back with your head, bring your head in line with your spine if you want to. You can forward fold over the leg when you really limber up. And then other side. Just use the opportunity to release what you need to release. Maybe you're sitting on a yoga block hanging out. Don't let your legs tighten too much. I know sometimes you think, well, there's no gain without pain. The body has a stretch reflex. It will tighten if you're trying to push it to stretch in a way it believes is not safe for it to do. So cajoling, for most of us that are very active, if you do anything, swimming, cycling in particular, running, your hamstrings might be tight, and cajoling is usually the thing that will help the most. Not everyone. Some people, have that, flexibility. And then sit into it. So my back foot is a little better aligned. Does make it, I guess, easier in a way. And find the little pockets of tension. And then coming out. If you wanted, for these rollbacks, you could put the block between your thighs immediately. Otherwise, we roll up, reach over the toes, so we're rounding here, and then we roll back. I'm sorry I'm not set up very well. First time in this space for recording. And now I'm going to demo the block. So as you roll back, think of lifting the block back up into the pelvis. This is like the inner spiral. And as you roll up, lift that block. That will activate your pelvic floor muscles, which are the beginning of your deep core muscles, And it's actually really good. Again, you could use a book. Just squeeze something and lift it back up into the pelvis energetically. It won't actually move. Now, I'm using the block to increase the range of my forward fold, my Paschimottanasana. You can do the same, or you can simply hinge at the hips. So make sure this feels good for your back. If you have any back issues in forward fold, it's because your hamstrings are too tight. You might need to bend the knees. Try and listen to your body. I know, coming from other disciplines, the kind of listening and tuning into the body might seem like an absolute cop-out in yoga, but it's actually probably the best thing about it. It's a type of moving meditation, right? It's a type of physical prayer, perhaps. It really teaches us about our body, what's happening physically and emotionally. Even for those people who only intended it for the physical. Eventually, it brings about a much deeper practice. So again, I'm bringing the block between my inner thighs to roll down slowly. Now, doing our little release. So big circles for your hips, hands on the knees. And then change the direction of those hip circles. Hug one of your knees in towards your chest. Flex the foot, interlace hand behind thigh, and have a play around with releasing the tension from your ankle and foot here. Keep your buttocks on the floor. Does this feel like a release for you? Do your joints feel good? Now sweep the leg across the body in a twist. Lengthen your back, look over the back, shoulder and arm, allowing the tension to drain away. So sometimes it feels like the practice gets the energy simmering, and then, so we're swapping sides now, knee to chest. And then we begin to feel the energy lift up through the body when we do these cool downs. We don't really call it a cool down in yoga, but you know what I mean. Have a play around with that, releasing the tension in the ankle and foot. It doesn't really matter what the name of things are, right? The experience does matter though. And then sweep that knee across the body into a little twist. Really do what you need to do in your cool down. One thing is, I can't see you. I always say at certain points in my in-person classes, do what you need to do now, and, giving people that permission. Obviously, if something hurts, you come out immediately, etc. You just probably don't want someone doing a jig at the back of the class when everyone is doing something else. But I'm pretty open to people, finding different shapes, even resting fully throughout the class if they need to, but different teachers are different. So windshielding, wipering the legs from side to side now. Extending the legs. Bring the shoulders away from the ears and coming into our Shavasana. Can we work on ungripping to facilitate that energy flow? So it is a good idea to turn off the lights. Maybe even put something on your eyes so that the inner gaze awakens. And scan the body for tension. Maybe we start with the head and move down towards the toes. Notice without fixing. Can we do that? Notice any reactions, emotional, mental, to the tension. Just notice as you continue to scan without trying to fix. Allowing the body to be supported by the floor. As if we're melting down into the floor. So the body is so heavy, it's like it's lying on memory foam, and we're allowing it to be fully supported and to melt down into the floor. So this includes the back of the hands and the wrists, and the back of the neck and head. Check in with the ears. Are you holding them up? Notice any tension around the skin of your face. And allowing the breath to come and go like a tide. So letting go of any pushing or pulling now of the breath. And we can imagine perhaps the breath coming up through the feet, but in through every pore as well, up and around the body. And on the reverse journey, the breath is moving back, down and around the body like a tide. And on that exhalation, that tide of the breath coming in and out, allowing ourselves to receive. And also to release the tension. It's just a few moments, so allow yourself to be. Letting go of any lists or striving. And you might want to stay a little bit longer, as long as you need to stay. And I'm going to leave you there.